Lydia Esia is the Director for Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation at the Ministry of Science, Environment and Technology. Lydia is worried about the environmental impact of the garbage that is dumped in the ocean.
There's also another report by the World Wildlife Foundation, which also indicates that averagely, an average person ingests into your system approximately 5 grams of plastics weekly. And to bring it home, the 5 grams of plastics can be likened to a credit card, the size of a credit card on the average every week. That's the quantity of plastics that we inject into our system. Because obviously the plastics have penetrated through our food chain. So you sit in Accra, you have your delicious fried rice and chicken and whatnot, and you think that, oh, I mean, the presentation is good, I cooked it well, there's nothing, but you have no idea the chemicals. Because of the ingestion of the plastics, we are having issues, or the effects of plastics is also being seen in terms of some human health issues that are confronting people. So the issue of obesity, the issue of fertility, people's, I mean, not having or having challenges to give birth because of the fact that the plastics are able to mutate the way the hormones are in our system and are able to interfere with the way the hormones operate.
The devastation that plastics are causing the fishing industry is far-reaching. Researchers have recently found alarming levels of plastics in the bellies of fishes, not in the ocean alone, but in Ghanaian lagoons too. Microplastics that end up in water bodies become even more difficult to manage because marine creatures ingest it.
Plastics being on the spawning grounds affects the life forms which the fishes lives on. Therefore, you may not have a lot of fish spawning in there, and therefore it affects the supply of fingerlings or other varieties to the ocean.
Professor Kofi Nyako is the country lead for Ocean Hub, an organization that's working to create an enabling environment for the integrated, challenge-led ocean governance research. Professor Nyako is sounding alarm bells on how the plastics and garbage in the ocean are affecting marine life and the general livelihood of fishes who depend on the ocean. Civil society organizations have been at the forefront of campaigns aimed at ridding the ocean of plastics and other garbage. One such organization is the Green Africa Youth Organization. Desmond Alunwa is co-founder of the Green Africa Youth Organization and the Africa Program Manager for the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives.
And we hopefully we will pilot this the first quarter of this year, water ATMs, where you go in, you slot your coin. Depending on how much you slot in, the water comes for you, and then you bottle up your bottle, and then you go away. And then when it finishes, you get to the next station, and then you do the same thing. I think that this is simple, and nobody is going to be taken out of business. If you want, you can still keep the person who was carrying the water sit by the dispenser, and that is okay.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And of course, we're dilating on our latest Hotline documentary, A Sea of Plastic, and what it's doing to us as we ingest all of these items, what they're doing to us health-wise, and the environmental consequences of the plastic waste that we see littered across the length and breadth of our country, not just the city of Accra, which also brings to mind the whole bit about making Accra the cleanest city in Africa. How far along are we? I remember hearing from the sector minister, the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Abnadapa, saying that, yes, we hadn't got there, but within a period of time we would get there, and money, logistics, and all of that. What has happened to all of that talk? Well, helping us get into that latest Hotline documentary, we have some guests lined up, but guess who's joining me in the studio? There's King Yellow from way back then. Should I call her Queen Yellow? Good morning,
Good
Mapito.
morning, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm great, thank you.
You're doing some awesome work, eh?
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
I've been getting some awesome raving reviews, but they would make you blush since your texture, you will blush. So I'm going to save them for after the show. And then I gave you the one from my mom the other day.
Yes, you did.
My own mom.
Oh, yeah.
All
Benjamin's mom is
gushing.
Is in love with me. Yeah. Oh, Benjamin.
I hope you've been telling me mine when the girl them.
No, I don't. You see, I don't want to make you arrogant. I don't want to make you arrogant.
You don't want to make
the girl them, they've been sending me messages, but I'm like, oh, you people should relax.
You trust them, eh?
Should relax for him. This man is taken.
Hey, Dema.
Yeah.
That's spoiling the market. Anyway, let's get to more serious issues. Venan Sondo is a chartered environmentalist. Venan joins the conversation. Patrick Apoya is a wash expert. We also have Professor Kofi Nyako, country lead, Ocean Hub, and Richard Kwejunyako, who is with the JoyNews team that undertook this project, this latest Hotline documentary. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. I'm just doing a sound check so I can be sure all of you can be heard.
Yes, thank you very much, Omar.
We can hear you. Thank you.
All right. I'll start with you, Richard Kwejunyako, just to give us a bit of a background to this latest documentary. What made us go out there and do this, and just give us what the major takeaways are from this latest Hotline documentary, Richard. Hello? Kwejunyako, if you can hear me. Oh, it appears Kwejunyako has left. I just wanted him to give us a bit of a background to this entire documentary, but we'll get him back for him to do that. In the meantime, I'll connect with Venan. Venan, if you can hear me, what do you make of this latest Hotline documentary? And what does it say about any progress or otherwise that we're making? But before you get to that, Kwejunyako, I don't know whether you got my question before the connection went off. I just wanted to find out what made us even go and do this, conduct this latest documentary, and what are the major takeaways from this documentary? Hello, did you hear me, Kwejunyako? Okay, it appears there may be a connectivity issue. Kwejunyako, can you hear me? If you can, just let me know so I proceed. All right, Venan, so like I put the question to you, what do you make of this latest documentary, especially as an environmentalist? What does it mean? And does it mean that whatever gains we may have made are being eroded, or the losses we've made are being worsened? What does all of this mean to you?
Well, I must say it's nothing new. It's something we've always talked about. And I was hoping that the later part of the documentary, you could see Madam Leader Edwa talking about the issues. I was hoping that she would be given the chance to speak about the effort that communities, the government, and diplomatic parties are putting in place to sort of address the situation. It's not changing, but then, how do you expect it to change when the consumers don't have the right sort of choices? Because you have one set of choices that are polluting, we all know that. But the onus is on the policymakers that are actually doing a lot, especially with the upcoming extended polluter responsibility, which is probably going to take effect in a couple of years, led by the industry themselves. And the government also undertaking a circular economy action plan targeting plastics. So you may think a lot is not happening, but in the background there's a lot more that is going on, but it takes a while before you can sort of align the effort towards a just transition, which will lead to the reduction in plastic pollution. You can't ban plastics. You need to actually undertake that transition is painful, but it has to kind of take its time and cost, get the right parties aligned, get the policy in line, get the sort of incentives and disincentives aligned, and then you can actually get towards pathway towards circular plastics.
So there's quite a lot to be done. You say it's no surprise to you, but looking at the situation, especially when we were told that Accra would become the cleanest city, I mean, we may not get there within the shortest possible time, but does this show that, I mean, is there any plan? Does this show in any way that we're getting something right? Or does it just mean that we are exactly where we were and nothing basically no progress is being made?
Well, I'm a scientist, I speak with metrics. So, in terms of volumes and tons and everything, and nobody really knows for sure how much plastic is imported into Ghana, how much plastic is polluted oceans every day. There's talk about 1.1 million tons of plastics every year, which sort of produced by Ghana. Some say it's 1.3, some say it's actually even more, some say it's less. So to be honest, the matter seems to get a little bit of limelight now and then when it's washed up in the oceans. People talk about it and then nothing gets said again after a while. The whole advocacy is not consistent. And you would actually wonder who is going to actually lead this advocacy. Is it going to be the media? Is it going to be the government? Is it going to be policy? Who are those NGOs who will lead this transition in terms of advocating and actually making sure that people are aware about the choices that they can actually do themselves, kind of undertake themselves to lead towards a transition? So it is getting worse, yes, but there is a lot more that is going on in the background. Frantic efforts are going on in the background to address the situation across the civil community, across the government, across industry, and across diplomatic partners as well who are actually coming in to help.
If efforts, just to interject, if efforts are that frantic implies there's a hubbub of activity, people are very excited about something and are moving to work towards, remedying a situation. I don't know whether frantic would be the word, because like you rightly said at the start of your submission, we've not made any progress. In fact, if anything at all, from your rhetoric, we have retrogressed.
Well, I would beg to disagree. I don't say we have retrogressed, and I did not say we have made a lot of effort.
No, those are my words, but I'm saying that with what you've said, and then with saying frantic, I do not think there's a correlation.
Well, that is my opinion. From where I sit, from where I see the conversations going on, from where I hear conversation, and from what I take part in, I believe every week or every 2 weeks there is a seminar, there is a workshop, a webinar where I'm about to talk about something. There are people planning stuff, policy across the World Bank, across the GRIBE, across the NPAP, across civil society, across the World Economic Forum. There is just so much buzz, but then I'm not sure if that actually is translated into action. But of course, it's a problem and it takes time. It's going to transition eventually. It's going to wait its time, but I think we really need to actually give the discourse due justice in terms of talking about the issues that are actually going on and actually linking them to the effort that's actually on the ground and letting people see especially where they can actually take part and be part of the narrative.
Hold for me, Vernon. Let me bring in Patrick Apoya, a WASH expert. Patrick, for you, what do you make of this latest Hotline documentary, A Sea of Plastic? Does it resonate with what you know already from the system? And does it point to a worsening of the problem or a bettering of the issue we're dealing with in terms of plastic?
thank you very much. Yes, it is something we may have known in the past, but I think the documentary has brought in some dimensions that actually paint a more gloomy picture than what we have been thinking. And of course, a lot of people are aware about the problem of plastics and the effects on our oceans and even on our environment. But just how that can be viewed in terms of its real manifestation, I think that is what this documentary has brought to bear. And to make it very live, to just paint a very live picture of the problem and how serious the problem is staring at us. And for me, it just makes me to reflect that then what tangible achievement have we actually made all these years talking about plastic? It's not as if it's a new thing that we are just hearing about. But if it is a new thing, we are programming a whole, there are two ministries that are programming around plastic. That's the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources in its routine waste management drive. And then you have the Ministry of Environment that has a huge program on plastics management and elimination. But the problem just still appears to be untouched. And I can attribute this to the fact that the government or the policymakers are actually torn between this extreme programmatic ideas of civil society and environmentalists on one hand, who are calling for an outright ban on plastic, and then the plastic advocacy, which is a huge lobby group involving the manufacturers and heavy traders in plastics, who quickly oppose other ideas that recycling, it creates jobs, the National Action Plan initiative that was actually launched by the big plastic manufacturers, trying to paint a public picture that there is a plan to deal with the plastic menace by recycling. And yet, when you put everything together, we are saying less than 2% of our plastics are being recycled, not more than 10% of whatever we generate is even managed. And when you think about it, that plastics, because of their very nature, are easily swept into our ocean by water and by wind, we should not have been surprised about what is happening. But what is surprising is actually what we are unable to do. Even though we have been singing that we will do. Either the state itself is confused and torn in between what exactly to do, or civil society and environmental lobbies are not punchy enough to look at what kinds of ban or which plastics pose the biggest problem, and they always point at the one-use plastic that should be considered for banning, or the private lobby that is promoting the plastics or trading in plastics are strong in the lobby to the extent that they are able to slow down any state intervention that point to actually banning them. But we have reached a stage where we should take a very bold step in saying that, look, we are not saying ban all plastic. One-use plastics, which constitute the majority of the menace, let's take a look at it. That is what we are just stuck in and unable to take a decision. And for me, this documentary has come timely. It exposes three things: the weakness of the state in actually dealing with the problem and not knowing what to do about it. It's like we have given up, even though we continue to talk. Secondly, it also questions the effectiveness of the civil society lobby, and it also advocacy, and it also tells us that those who are behind, let us do this, we can't ban, they appear to be winning the day. We just don't feel how serious the problem is. And for me, I give thumbs up to this documentary, and that it has come timely.
Now, you spoke about a two-headed problem, or a problem with two different angles. It is either government doesn't know what to do and is not doing that, or the institutions that are supposed to target and ban a select group of plastic products like single-use plastics are not doing that. For example, so typically when I go and purchase an item, if they don't weigh too much, instead of taking them, you will notice that, let's say you go to the nearest store, you buy one thing, you get plastic. You buy another thing, plastic. So you've bought bottled water, you get, apart from the plastic for the bottled water, you get a bag to carry it in. You buy 3 or 4 different items, likely you're getting 3 or 4 different plastic, and people are carrying them when you could use just one. and maybe reuse these. That would be on the educational front, which we've not done enough of, where we could have the NCCE and other groups also come in. But where do you think the problem really lies? Does it lie at the doorstep of government, especially when the commitment to make Accra the cleaner city has been on the radar for a long time? Or is it the institutions to target and ban specific plastic products that are not getting this right? Which is it?
For me, it is everybody's responsibility, but ultimately, the onus lies on government. Because when we have interest groups who are divided on how to proceed, and when you have communities who are now who have been swamped by strong marketing drives and our lives are now tied to the plastic, that there's just nothing you can do with that plastic. It is government that has to be very decisive in bringing all the data together, bringing all the evidence together, and looking at what is in the best interest of the national, of the public, and then making sure that those measures are actually put in place and enforced. But if government is also now torn in between the two opposing extremes and not very decisive on how it wants to proceed with its plastic program, then I would say it is a government failure. Having said that, I also want to recognize the efforts that the Minister of Environment is putting in place. The Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources are putting in place, but they are just not enough. They are not backed by the funding that is required. We know we are in a national crisis, but even before we got to this crisis, in terms of our financial situation of our economy, the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources was really never funded the way you will assume a city that or a country that wants institute to be the best or the cleanest city in Africa should be funded. It was just like it was business as usual, and you could see the ministry had a very clear program, but there was nothing to back those actions to see the impact that government wanted to see in the area of sanitation. So that's why I think ultimately government has to take the blame. But when I say government, it goes beyond just the frontline agencies that are mandated to deal with the problem. It's actually up to the cabinet level, up to the finance level, who ultimately decide what budget you get and what you don't get.
Let me also bring in Dr. Kwabena Kokofu. He is Executive Director, Environmental Protection Agency, and of course they play a crucial role in all of this. Dr. Kokofu, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you very much, my brother.
It's really good to have you. I don't know whether you've seen snippets of this latest Hotline documentary of ours, A Sea of Plastic, that we've put forth, but it paints the picture once more of the menace of plastic waste all over the length and breadth of our capital city, and especially concentrated in some of the Ga areas and among other places in Accra, and also beyond the capital. But what do you see in terms of a trend? Is anything getting better? Are we doing enough to stem the tide of plastic waste in Ghana and in the capital?
Well, good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. I must congratulate those who put up the documentary. I haven't seen it yet, but then it is also obvious that when it comes to the issue of plastic pollution, and any observatory could imagine the level of the menace. It's unfortunate though, but it has been a systemic failure in the system for both institutions and the citizenry. However, it is not as if nothing is being done. Just this morning, I'm going to the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, where the Sector Minister, Dr. Kokwefue, jointly we're going to launch the Climate Change Week. And on the agenda is this plastic waste management policy that the ministry has put together. And very soon will be launched to lead the fight against the pollution of plastic waste in the system. Over the years, about 2 years back, There have been consultations, stakeholders, and all that. Those who are doing the recycling, those of us who are the end users, the producers, and the retailers or the marketeers of these plastic, the various levels of plastic. By and large, we are encouraging the reuse of all resources, of all products, including plastic. And as you rightly put up, you get somebody goes out there to shop, and every single item, there is an issuance of plastic bag. And so you can see the level of contribution by both end users and the retailers or those who are using it for their products and commodities. Here we are asking, and we're going to enforce that fully, that the single use of plastic, particularly the under 20 microns, those lighter ones that flies all around the place, may or necessarily have to be banned. I'm not certain yet what the minister that may be, but it is possible. Looking at the trend, we may necessarily have to stop the production of it and then the use of it. So then we can have people to understand and to appreciate the fact that you can reuse and reuse and reuse plastic bags. Those bottles that you use for water and other liquid products, they can easily be picked up, or they can easily be reused or recycled by the facilities that we have available on our hands. Having said all these things, the citizenry have greater responsibility in order to keep whatever objectives the policy that is going to be launched will have to. Particularly at the Environmental Protection Agency, we've been teaching and we've been asking people to practice the waste segregation concept, where plastic will be separated from bottles, from other waste materials, so that the waste managers can easily pick them up, send them to the facilities that are required to do the recycling, and it makes it much more easier and less costly for the recyclers and all that. So I'm happy with the conversation. It is drawing the National Cycle up. It is bringing to us, all of us, the menace on hand and the solution to that, so that we can all be part of the solution. Since we are part of the problem, we are part of the challenge.
All of us ought to get involved. We're all involved because we're all part of the problem. But I'd like to find, so some very interesting points you make. I've forgotten whether it was Patrick Apoya who made the point that, yes, single-use plastic, at least there must be some category that ought to be banned. If you look at what we call a tuomosum, the very small ones, so when you buy a bottle of water, the ones that are used, they are very light and you use them only once and you have to discard of them. They end up, in our landfills, some end up in other places, and it's very problematic. But some have also made mention of the cost-benefit analysis. If we ban those single-use plastic bits, others will also say that will lead to less production for those who are into that industry. What is the cost-benefit analysis? And I wanted to find out. I've been in jurisdictions where they use jute bags, for example, so you can use it time and again. In fact, you can use it for a whole year or more. It's the same thing. I don't know what pertains in South Africa. I'll have Mapito share with us. But what is your take on that? What are the alternatives that we can use instead of plastic?
Let me dwell on the single use and the possible ban. The under 20 microns are all over the place. I mean, they constitute the most eyesore. And because they are lighter, the wind can carry them all around, and then the spread you're talking about. So it's like redistribution of waste, plastic waste all around by nature, if human activities are even cancelled out. So the issue of banning or not banning economic considerations have gone through. We are all aware that manufacturers are in business. They've invested that much. They've employed people. So the cost-benefit analysis is there to see. But, and the very big but, when it comes to environmental management and protection, the concept is simple. It's a polluter pays concept. So if the producers are prepared to pay the commercial value of the waste that is going to be generated or the waste that is being generated in order to get them off the street, we have no problem at all. That will be another revenue generation. However, they complain of paying the full cost, and the ability to pay is simply not there. If it is not, then for them, the cost-benefit analysis will be to stop that production. I mean, we are not talking about production of plastic in totality, no. The identified nuisance ones. Then, if the cost-benefit analysis to them, producing and then paying the commercial cost of environmentally managing them, then that would be a very good thing. It would be a very, very... and that is what's happening everywhere. I mean, the other jurisdictions where the stronger economies, they haven't stopped producing plastics in any form, no, but they are able to contain, they are able to pay the commercial cost for the discarding, management, handling of the waste. So that is set aside. The other suggestion of the jute bags. Jute bags. Yeah, the options are all available. We are producing paper bags. Some people are using paper bags, and they are biodegradable, and that is the best one to go. So if there is an interest in the production, mass production of jute bags, so be it. We will permit such a venture, and then we go through. I must also say that we do have biodegradable plastics bags in the system. Indonesia is in the lead, and they use cassava to produce these plastics. So the technology intervention is key in this aspect. How do we get our manufacturers to branch into these high technological solutions that will keep them in business and at the same time dealing with the environmental pollution? So it's a package. It's a menu of solutions. That is why I talked about a policy statement that the minister will soon launch for the nation to feed into. Yeah.
I'll be coming back to you on that point, in fact, especially as climate change, flooding and everything, because we know that when this plastic gets choked in our gutters, then you know what happens when the rains hit. But even before we go there, I want to pose this question to all of you in terms of finding solutions to the problem. There's also the bit, apart from biodegradable plastic, apart from the jute bags, apart from the paper bags, there's also water vending machines, popularly known as water ATMs. So you can locate them in many different places. They are self-contained. You get automated water. You put a coin, depending on what you want, in there. You get the water, you drink, and then there's a way of, moving on with whatever you have used, be it plastic or whatever. And those likely would be biodegradable. You can use your mobile money and all of that to sort it out. Have we got to that point where we should have many more water vending machines or water ATMs to tackle this problem? I'll start with you, Venon Sonda. In fact, this question I'm posing to all of you, so I'd have all of you give your reflections on it, including other solutions you would like to proffer. I'll start with you, Venon.
I think, personally, solutions like that are welcome, but it's probably just a little drop in the ocean, because it's great to have water vending machines, but the question is, how accessible is that going to be to the masses?
So make it accessible. When people go out It should be
Exactly.
the water vending machines they're using. When, I mean,
Yeah,
for
but
what they will consume
what I
at
was
home,
coming to
people
say-
can get whatever. But once they go out, no one should be using, plastic purchasing outside. It should be with these ATMs.
Yeah, great. But then you have the issue of power, right? How are they going to be powered? Are they going to be manually powered? Are they going to have solar power solutions for it? And how are you going to ensure that the masses have affordable water bottles? All I'm trying to say is solutions are great. There are many solutions out there. For water bottles, for replacing food packaging, for replacing we even use plastic toothpicks and all that stuff. There is a great opportunity for all sorts of solutions. But the question is understanding which solution is most viable and where. Of course, as I keep saying, it's a transition. It's a gradual and just transition towards making sure that everybody has a choice that is affordable in terms of playing their part in reducing pollution. So the water vending machines is a very great idea, a very great solution. Welcome to the narrative, and I hope that it does proliferate to every part of Ghana so that everyone can use it.
Patrick, what's your take?
It's a welcome solution. Unfortunately, that solution is targeting the group of plastics. There are also one-use plastics, but there are also the group of plastics that are easily recycled, that are in high demand now, and that has a high value when you pelletize them. So, and that is the sachet, the water sachet. That particular group of plastics are things that if we invest in them, it is a group that you can actually valorize and add value to the economy. That's the ones that you see the trucks packing all the time. So long as it is not dirty, the value is very high. People actually sell them. The ones that ATM machine will not target are the very ones that our EPA colleague talked about. Those that fly around, the black plastics that the recyclable value is so low that nobody is interested in them, and there are ones that are easily blown by the wind, and there are those that the ATM machine will not be able to target. And also the question of the portability. The strength of sachet water is the portability. Whether you are in a market street, whether you are in a car, anywhere you are, that you stretch your hand like this and you have it. It will take a long time for ATM to catch up with that level of portability that the sachet, the packaged water actually offers now. Besides that, I think definitely it's a good solution, and it will add value to our fight against the plastics.
Come back to you. Let's go to Koligone, and Michael Ashali is there for us. Michael, what do you have for us? Michael?
Very close to Jamestown. This space is very important for the conversation that we are having on plastics in the ocean. This Korea lagoon here is exactly where
Okay, we'll go back to Michael Ashali later on. But Benjamin, we're discussing like the rules and regulations. For example, in South Africa, you have to buy plastic. So if you're going to the supermarket, you buy plastic for equivalent of, let's say, 50 pesos or like 1 CD. And so that compels people when they're shopping to remember their plastic bags from home. You understand? But we also have some other certain...
Oh, so if you go to a store and you don't have any, you're going to have to buy it.
You have to buy it, right? And obviously you don't want to carry your groceries just in the basket. You'll be compelled to buy, but every time you think about it, okay, so when I'm going grocery shopping, I'd rather take my plastic bags that are at home so that I can reuse them. So you find people reusing their plastics. That's number one. The second one is that would have like some sort of paper bags. We'll talk about this later, but let's go back.
Just quickly, the cost there isn't inhibitive. In some instances, they would make the plastic much more expensive, so that if you have to buy it at the pay point where you are making the purchases, you would feel it more. Let's say it's very small plastic and you're buying it for like 5 CDs. You will not forget the plastic bag that you have at home. But if it's like 50 pesos, people will still...
No, even 1 cedi is a lot, because you're thinking about how many 1 cedis have I spent. So you're at home and you're thinking that I have like 100 cedis worth of plastic bags. That's a lot of money if you're looking at someone who is earning what's like 350 Ghana cedis. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it compels them to actually reuse their plastics. And there's been some couple of campaigns. We'll get into that. Let's go back to Michael Ashali. Michael.
In the ocean. This Korle Lagoon over the years have brought, unfortunately, more plastic than even wastewater to the ocean. This is the exact spot where the lagoon interacts with the vast ocean. But all the waste, where does it end up in? Right here in the ocean. And many a times, the sea, with its own mechanisms, regurgitates that waste back onto the seashore. And you can see from how it looks right now that the sea is just made up of sand and a lot more plastic. Plastic to cotton, to ropes from some of the fishermen here. And then you can see quite a number of items, even metals sometimes, on the seashore here. But we're having this conversation today because we want to find a lasting solution to plastic in the ocean. How do we stop plastic from getting back into the ocean? Back here on the Korle Beach, there are a group of people who are doing something quite important, trying to contribute their quota to getting plastic off the beach when the sea is done regurgitating them. But they paint a very good picture of what exactly has been happening here. I'll ask them how long they have been working here as well. It's quite a tough job trying to get the plastic out of this fine sand here. In Papa join me here in myself you. Well, me na catching in chumo in Shona. Mabiogbe for touch about ten.
I tell me Kweku say.
Okay. Kweku fine wo nuchumo ne afie boy nye no bon femo.
Oh, so many years, almost 10 to 12 years kese no obiji chumo what you want. Obese what you want. Kese be ka ji wo kete mam. Ka ye mi awon ka we ba bi she bi aji important. Ya ga do e fire bi
So Kweku Esen, he tells me his name, has been working here for the past 8 years on this beach alone. He says that although he's been moved around, this is the exact station where he's been working for a very long time. And the reason being that the waste generated on this beach alone is enormous. The reason for which he's been stationed here. Mr. Esen, maybe we're catching nuchumono jinshie. Because me na kashi rubber pee and plastic pee ke J if she in show na no jenshi 8 years ago no but tell nuchu mo your ten
no me nuchu mo fa wo unto mo 30 loco she me go me gbo ye wo te me pi nwe pa she still want you know she no me do fa fe neke what you want when no etofa she can you mo ne wo na na ka do a problem I get do again. I make a walk out. Make a bear. No, a low of pen. Abu can be a get by show me and show less more dirty. I get you out. What you want? Get your beer. Yeah, any last one. Yo, when I will take your wire. Oba.
So, Kweku tells me that when it rains, the situation on the beach gets worse because the Korle Lagoon brings with it a lot of filth. And he says that for what he knows, from what he's observed over the last 8 years, is when it rains, people dump their plastic waste, be it whatever waste that they have, into water bodies, which then collects into the Korle Lagoon and then comes into the ocean. Again, he tells me that in the past 8 years, when he started this job, it was quite a tougher job to do, trying to walk through this plastic here, or this waste that had gathered on the beach here. But he tells me, with his hard-working self and many other people you can see in your shot right now, they have managed to, work hard around it to bring down the volumes. But he's not the only one who's been working here on this particular beach. Quite a number of people you can see. There's interest in the in plastic waste. For some people, they get to resell them, recycle, reuse them. And in that process of doing that, you get people who are interested in buying it. So the collection does not end here. For those that can be reused, for those that can be sold back onto the market, that is done. And you can see that groups of, there are heaps of plastic, be it in whatever form, sometimes even metal that have been collected and are waiting to be shipped off to some other places. There's a lot of interest in plastic waste now. However, not many people know how to properly deal with them. Many of them just dump them like Kweku Asian here told me it is done. Let me talk to one more of Kweku Asian's team and how they've been dealing with this. I mean, if you observe that there are many more women cleaning the beach than men, it happens to be the case along the entire stretch of the beach here in the Greater Accra region. Ima fanwani ojani mi beko ni wogba sane fio mabia keshe Kweku Asian kema keshe echunchumo afitomo 8 years ni bohun feta choboten
Gladys Botwe.
Okay. Gladys o fine wo bohame ni afi enye no chunu ye bia
na kanu wo ye bia mo 8 years.
8 years
Fine.
Wo no jenhye no chumo tenu me ya leten
Me wo di chumo no me apie wo fine. Agwen ba share ko ente pay delay wo kani bi. Chief men say wo ye me want to know what in the jam me je ko wi. Ake o ka tu want to know.
Wo ba wa we boni a shika na ha anye sane shi no jenhye no maybe ene dwe na oton ke mageshe fa apo
Ele po no me fa apo ne asenso. Me ko bote bi ne po ko ba do oboshinti dwe po enche na e ba ta o mintin. Ene wona le ko wona le to ene me na je ko kura kan wo chief men say wo ye no.
So quick translation there. Gladys here tells me she's also been working as part of those who clean the beach for the past 8 years. However, when she started, she notes remarkably that the level of waste on this particular beach was to her thigh. So the bridge between her waist and her thigh. That's exactly where it was here, to demonstrate it. She meaning your chuo poten ye bi and meaning you feel.
What's that?
Ne law maybe rubber pay alone the law that they pay.
Rubber, that was joy. Okay. And shall be better rubber gin bad. Dress only bad. No lord way.
Okay. Ewo tefeteni dry bar in show me in show joke about beach no.
Can you more in the king? Agbush dry. No one can dry a warm, but I war dry can anything about Shona. How can you got a moon cap and no about call later. Fair about one. Bear won't you want to. Or can you know Sunday by a baby? Can you know about fair or Twitter? I can do any bar to Monoconi only name. I can do a job. Fair about wash, okay, in Colleunca dear.
So Gladys says that just as Asian said, that the Kole Lagoon is one of the major contributors of the waste that you see on the beaches that she works with. So people dump theirs into the lagoon, which eventually also ends up in the ocean, then finally regurgitated back to the beach site here. Gladys, oh, no more kema kashi, nuchumom, menkuma, ese kema shi menkuma pa, menkuma fe, menkuma ete, menkuma boy kenibi kome. Ni shika huna ke hanya ho mi echi kenibi kome. Ote, I mean nchuma te ya leten.
To be we na kani. We ga shini boni PS cho wo me ko me pa ka mi ngo no na pay wo kwen bede ne ni ba be ne pocho wo ho bi yes ne wo ni me un etrashia wo ifa wa lente she pay no e wo e ba o ya no mo ye gbomo enjele spo we wa na ba pay e ko na ba pay na ja ba ga shi ni ne o pay po ba no to fit man le wa ne ko ba chu.
So Gladys finally tells me that when they started 8 years ago, there were quite a number. ASN gave me 30 people. However, over the years, that number has reduced drastically because of issues with remuneration. That is how much they are paid to work here. Although that is not enough, sometimes they have to deal with undue delays in the payment of their monies to them.
Me o ta ka nyongo no anya pay wo.
No ni hunye kiba chuni o mini na banya fe ya anya.
Ana wo ni bi na ke chuni. Tomo bowl ke ni bi, ke re ke block ni bi ne won ta wo fin.
Okay. Na jime me hu wo gloves.
Ke gloves fe won ta no fin no. Okay, chuni fe for.
So Gladys here tells me that if they get some help, okay.
So what bowl ni ke atri bre na ke dry awo. Okay, fe for. I go no go wash ne. Come to no ni mo ne. Aduma jan wo chu. E say ba ko. Chika wo container ka wo lo wo ka awo. Okay, face people can awo.
So Gladys tells me that the heat that you see in your shot right now is what they've managed to do just for today. However, they would need the assistance of government and the authorities to give them a proper waste bin that they can collect this into. Other than that, when it rains, that will be an effort in futility to try and clean the beach. This will all end back in the ocean. But she says that they need quite a lot more than that. They need their monies also paid on time, which will serve as motivation to them. Again, they'll need some other equipment to do the work that they do. They need rakes, they need gloves, and again, they need protection whilst they are working on the beach. It's a long conversation to having plastics totally eradicated from the beaches along Ghana's borders. But the conversation starts right here on trying to get people to stop dumping their waste in the ocean. It dots and lines the ocean floor and it's becoming a worrying trend. But as you can see, some people are working hard to get this menace to stop. We'll be talking to some more people along the beach today, finding out their own solution, their own experience with waste and plastics that have entered the ocean. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
That's Michael Ashale. They're giving us some updates or what is happening on the beach. And I think what they're doing is very, very commendable. The likes of Gladys and Ernest is very commendable. But some of the things that we should also look at is like campaigns and bringing in some of like your celebrities, your favorite celebrities, right, to do some campaigns for this plastic waste. Benjamin, would you like to bring in our guests?
And yes, right before we went to that area interacting with Papani Ashale, we're interacting with you, our guests, on what the way forward is, what the solutions are. I know you have to take leave of us, Dr. Kokofu, so I'd like to find out from you, apart from the jute bags and others, the water ATMs, do they fit into the solutions that you see? The ban on single-use plastics is also there. And then in terms of climate change, what is happening to us? This plastic gets lodged in certain places, waterways, gutters, major points where water should be able to leave. And then when the rains come, and the rains will come soon, we face flooding issues. What is the way forward, Doc?
Yes, the way forward is simple. Attitudinal change. Since individuals do not keep these waste plastics in their bedroom and in their sitting room, it is also important that they do not discard them on the open or in the open, the environment. What is around us is what is sustaining us as a people. I mean, in our living standards and all that. And it defines what is in us as a people, whether we adhere to sanitary conditions and all manner of things. So if you cannot keep the plastic waste on your bed, if you cannot keep it in your bedroom, please don't throw it out there. It's as simple as anything. Why would people want to use these plastics and instead of dealing with them hygienically, instead of dealing with them as any other thing, they will want to throw it out there. So attitudinal change is one of the key. And then institutional.
But very quickly, Doc, how do we bring about the attitudinal change? I was mentioning, for example, can we rope in the NCC? Can we have drives across the country? Can we have ads made, cartoons and others, animation and stuff like that? What do we do? The people will not just all of a sudden become sensitized to the issue.
Yeah, we are already doing, and you've been doing. This morning, we've devoted precious time to discuss these things, not only with the voice, but with the visibility, the pictures and all that. It's part of the awareness creation. It's part of reaching out to the people. All we need to do is to intensify. The media is always the greatest partner in most of these things, particularly the broadcast. So you have freely given your resources to help us reach out to the people. It is for the people to catch up with whatever we're doing and whatever we're saying. I was going to say, beyond the awareness creation and the education, or preaching against attitude, we're going to back it with the full force of the law, where institutions like my own, we strengthen the arms of the law, and then get people panicked. But the point is, are you going to do it? You're going to send Kofi Manu who littered some few plastics on the street? Are you going to jail him? Are you going to fine him? What are you going to do? We are working out all these things and finding space in the policies that we've drafted for the public consumption and implementation. Going forward, it is also very important that the polluter pays principle is made to come to bear fully. So those manufacturers will then be called upon to pay fully commercially what it takes to manage these plastics, wayward plastics that has become so much. I wanted to have a bite on the earlier question you asked all of us, the panel. I mean, finding solutions. We talked about the possibility of water tenders being displayed or put at vantage points. I think that was the question, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yes, my take, if I'm going to be blunt on this, it's not going to work here, now, maybe in future. But for now, we are in the middle of a mess where simple do's and the don'ts, people doesn't want lessons. So you can imagine, I'm going to say my holy village at Amakrum, Miradane in the Tepa district, and I'm in a car from Kumasi, and I feel like drinking water. Then I have got to get down and go look for a vending machine and all those matters. And again, the commerciality of it is not going to be a Bada Christmas kind of thing. This idea could be sold to entrepreneurs who will weigh the pros and the cons, the commercials of it, and then see if it is worth investing in. And I can assure you, no investor will want to go there. At night, you get people vandalizing these machines for absolutely nothing. So the emphasis and our strength must be on don't use this and discard it away anyhow, anywhere. You do so, we catch you, or the law catches up on you, you'll be punished. Then a manufacturer, in the policy, you've identified all the manufacturers, and they'll be given codes. So whatever you manufacture, your unique code will be on the product. So we find your product discarded out there, and you are responsible for cleaning up the system. So I didn't want to go much in details before the whole thing is launched, but I can assure you it is to be with the people to get solutions to this. You can put up all those policies. You can be arresting people left and right. But then people must understand that why wouldn't people go to Kempinski and litter all around with plastic or with used bags? Why would people working at multimedia, after drinking your water, after purchasing your whatever product out there, finishing using it, why don't you throw it all around? You can't do, because the system there is such that you cannot do. But why various communities who simply want to do that.
Right.
The responsibility on the part of the citizenry. So we must situate this ourselves and then ask ourselves questions. Why is it that it is not done here in Accra? It is not done in a particular area, but it is done in other areas. Why? Yeah. So by and large, I'm confident. I have confidence that we can surmount this challenge now that we have the media fully backing and fully on board. We are all now worried about. We do appreciate the enormity of the challenge. Putting our hands on the deck. Certain institutions, we will bite. Surely, we will have to bite. We have no option because we failed the nation over the years, and that one I do accept. So going forward, we have got to be up and going, but then we expect the citizenry to come halfway for that, so that monitoring and implementation of policy will be smoother and will not generate any acrimony where we have got to confronting one another, simply because we don't want to delete that.
Doc, we're so grateful for your time with us. Dr. Kwabena Kokofu is Executive Director of the EPA, and he was gracious enough to give us some of his time this morning, sharing his thoughts on the matter. In fact, on the back of what Doc was saying, we have a message coming through. So this one from Seth Owusukumi. Seth Owusukumi says, the underlying factor is poverty. You cannot clean up a city where 70% of the occupants live on the street. That is what he alleges. He says if we were to live in Choko, we would do same. But if we were to move to the airport residential area, we wouldn't litter. That's what he says. Let's tackle poverty and most of our problems will be solved by default. That is what he is saying. There's also this one that says, we need the town council back to do this job. Let me come now to Professor Kofi Nyarko, country lead for Ocean Hub. Prof, thank you for staying with us. We've had to go around a bit, but for you, on the back of this conversation we're having, we know what the problem is. What, for you, are the solutions? Are we tackling the problem the right way?
To your listeners, just before I go into your question, I just want to give you just a brief about the One Ocean Hub. The One Ocean Hub is a research program, a research for development program that is working to promote fair and inclusive decision-making for a healthy ocean where people can flourish. And we're working in 5 different countries. We have the lead in UK, Ghana, South Africa, Namibia, and the Pacific Islands. In Ghana, it's our main aim. Our main aim is to restore the small pelagic fisheries, where you have the artisanal fishermen involved. And we know the artisanal fishermen are highly poor. So plastics becomes an important issue because you find out that about 80% of the marine litter are all plastics. And how does it affect the livelihoods of the fishermen? So maybe we'll come into that. Well, I would prefer 5 main things that we should look at. We should rethink. We should also reduce. We should rethink whether plastics or some plastics are important. What's the use of straw? We keep on seeing people using straw. Straw has no any other use apart from sipping. What's the use? So we should rethink about the kind of plastics that we use, and also reduce the amount of plastics that we use within the country. Aside reducing, we also have to look at reuse, because in Europe, when you go to the shop, you pay €1 for a plastic bag. Definitely the following time, you don't want to pay another €1 for a plastic bag. you would definitely carry the plastic bag in your pocket and reuse. And Ghanaians, I don't think we have the attitude of reusing. We just want to use it once and throw it away. Then also the recycling bit. It's one important thing because if the sachet water, you buy a sachet water and they add a pesewa to it, or 3 pesewas or 5 pesewas to it, after taking the sachet water, you send the sachet water back to the vendor or a known place, they'll give you your 5 pesewas back. At least people would definitely put the sachet water. As students, we did that in Europe. You know, when we buy our water, our Fanta and our Coke, we put the container, our beer, we put the containers back and send it to the shop and get our refund. The other point is redesign. That means we should look at how best we can use the plastic for other or we can reuse the plastic for other uses, probably trying to get petroleum out of it or whatever it is. And this points to the fact that we should look at serious material engineering and promoting courses of material engineering in our universities.
So those are the points you're making. Now, since we're wrapping up the conversation, I'd like to find out from you, from the governmental end of things, and maybe from the end of institutions like yours, NGOs, among others. Have we lived up to expectation? What more would you like to see? When we spoke to Dr. Kokofu, he made mention of the fact that even today, the sector minister was launching a climate change week, among others. But have we done enough, especially knowing, as a country, that Accra floods every year, without fail?
Well, in terms of flooding, I think there are a lot of things that we need to look at in terms of the drainage issue. But one important thing, let's look at a sector of people within our economy that at least are highly impacted by plastics, especially our fisher folks. You know, we're talking about alternative livelihoods or supplementary livelihoods for the fisher folks. And you go to the beaches, they are littered with plastics. And one important use of the beach is for tourism, where most fisher folks also go there, at least as, how do I put it? Guards, or probably to guard people when they are swimming, you know, and also to sell things. But if the beach is littered with plastics, how would people come in there for them to get other sources of income during their lean season? The other point is when they go to fish, especially those who use the beach scene. Now, they harvest more plastics than the fish because you have the fish, the plastics closer to the coastal area or the near shore. So they harvest more plastics than fish. Putting in all this effort, casting your net, spending the whole day and harvesting more plastics than the fish that you need to sell in order to get other source of income for other things. Yeah, then from this point of view, where does the plastic come from? Who regulates the plastics? Who regulates the importation of plastics? Then which implies that the government has not lived up to, and the institutions that are responsible have not lived up to expectation. Because this EPA, Ministry of Environment, they know the effects of plastics in terms of climate change. When people are disposing out refuse, they burn the emission of greenhouse gases. That also affects our environment. Now, if they know all these things and they are not able to put their feet down in order to stop the use of some of these plastics, then I think from my point of view, they have failed. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Prof, for having joined the conversation. We're grateful for the insight that you've shared. Professor Kofi Nyarko is country lead, Ocean Hub. Let me come now to Patrick Apoya for your final thoughts on this. What is the way forward? Well, we'll wrap with Venan Sondo. Venan, over to you.
Thank you very much. I believe there is a slow progress towards a transition, and that is why one of the best solutions being advocated by not just the government of Ghana, but by many other institutions, including the African Circular Economy Network, is a circular economy approach, which, as Professor Nyako was saying, basically looking at not just banning plastic, but understanding the various levels of the circular economy, how we can actually start by redesigning our whole sort of solutions, how we can educate people to reuse, to repurpose. You know, before you recycle, we can't recycle ourselves out of the mess. It's a whole congregation of solutions that need to be put in place. And that is why the process seems to be a little bit slow. So advocacy, I'm glad the media is coming on board. The media has always shown a lot of support, but I think the time has come for the media to actually make it a lot more prominent across the various channels to people to understand not just the impact of plastics, but how they can play their part and link them to the possible solutions and alternatives that they can use to maybe avoid buying a water sachet or avoid buying a styrofoam pack for food or avoid using a plastic straw. So it's a whole list of solutions that if they all come together with the right sort of advocacy, with the right sort of channels to kind of put through the message, with the right kind of policy, it could actually start bearing some fruit. But you can see the mess is obvious. You want to think that there is nothing being done, but I bet you there are a lot of actors out there who are actually doing a lot and actually for free at times volunteering to make sure that the problem can be addressed. So I'm glad that I wouldn't want to kind of thank the media for highlighting the issue, but I think a lot more needs to be done. And a lot more needs to be done by the media to educate the masses about some of the solutions and the policy mechanisms that have been put in place by the various actors to make sure that the solution is addressed. If they can understand what is going on, if they can see the process, I think they'll be able to appreciate that a lot of effort is going in the background, although not actually being seen. That will actually help calm down the anxiety, I would say.
Mr. Sondo, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Venan Sondo is a chartered environmentalist. We also had Professor Kofi Nyako, Country Lead, Ocean Hub, Dr. Kwabena Kukofu, Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency. And we also had, joining the conversation, Professor Kofi Nyako and also our very own Richard Kwadwo Nyako. We couldn't really connect to him, but he actually led us as we undertook this latest Hotline documentary, A Sea of Plastic. Together, we can solve the problem, not apart, not segregated, not separated. We're all involved, and that is how we get to resolve the issue. Mapito, quite a conversation. Yeah. And just to wrap the conversation, you spoke of the South African endeavor and how you're using different methods. But is it this topical? Is it this prominent in South Africa as well in terms of managing plastic waste? Is it a menace? Let me put it.
It's not a menace because of some of the measures they've put in. You know, they also have like initiatives like Plastic SA, and the main thing with Plastic SA is to deal with plastic waste. You know, they'll turn out campaigns like reduce, reuse, recycle. So this is something that's been introduced. So
that's one thing you're getting right, the campaigns.
Yes, the campaigns. And this is something that was introduced when you were young. You know, this is something that's introduced in school. So you know that they'll tell you that, okay, there are 3 dustbins. One is for plastic, one is for a bottle, and another one is for like other waste, like food or something like that. So from a young age, you know that, okay, I shouldn't litter. You understand? I shouldn't litter. Okay, I have to.
If I'm going to put my waste in,
I have to put it in the right dustbin, glass here, and you get rewarded for that. You know, so because of that, when you're older, you know that, okay, no, it's not like I'd rather litter my own car than take out my trash out of the car. That's so. I think it's also from a young age we need to be taught, like Dr. Kukofu was saying, that it's attitude. It all
social engineering
is to attitude. So campaigns, paying for the plastic, also getting rewards some sort of reward system. If you are going to hand in some plastic bottles, you get like 1 CD or 2 CDs or whatever. The more plastic bottles you have, the more money you get. Things like that, Benjamin.
Well, we are innovating in other ways. How can we do same here? Well, before we take a break, water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And guess what? We have the perfect sizes for all purposes. 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Well, our 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices, and all you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. I was just sipping on Awake water before coming on the show, and I'm going to continue sipping on it right after this break. But stay with us. We'll be back after this break.